My brother, the police chief, rose from his chair in the middle of Christmas dinner and said, "Cameron, stand up. You're under arrest." I still had a fork halfway to my mouth. The tree kept blinking. The carols kept humming through the speakers. Everything in the room stayed perfectly normal, except for his voice, which sliced the night clean in two. "I'm Cameron, 37. I work in military intelligence, though my family only believes I'm some guy who's constantly traveling for work." Mom gasped behind her hands. My uncle muttered, "Knew it." Like he'd been waiting for this moment all year. Two deputies stood on the porch, breath fogging in the cold, ready like this was a raid. Alex, my brother, produced handcuffs and spoke like he was reading from a script. He said I'd pretended to be a federal officer. He said he had proof. No one asked me a single question. They just swallowed his story whole. He had no clue who I actually was. "Before we go any further, tell me where you're tuning in from, city, state, or country, and something small about your setup." Echoes of Life loves hearing that stuff. Part 2. The Golden Child and the Ghost. Growing up, the comparisons between Alex and me hung in the house like background noise. He was the stable one, the pride of the hometown, the boy who stayed put. I was the one who left. The one in uniform. The one missing from every group photo. Dad used to say I thought like a strategist, always planning, always calculating. Alex overheard that once and it burned into him like scripture. He climbed the ranks. Patrol, sergeant, then the polished badge of police chief. Mom bragged about him like it was her full-time job. "He's our anchor," she'd say. And maybe she believed it. When Dad passed, I flew in for barely a day, straight from base, straight back to duty. Alex stayed. He managed hospital visits, paperwork, grief, logistics. My absence became a wound they blamed on me. Alex liked that. It made him the son who stayed and me the one who vanished into government shadows. Whenever I called home, Mom repeated the same script. "Why can't you visit more? Why can't you tell us what you actually do? Why can't you be more like your brother?" My work was classified. To them, that just meant suspicious. Mystery turned to doubt. Doubt grew into the narrative Alex crafted. And unfortunately for me, he was a better storyteller than any of them realized. So when he laid that folder open on Christmas night, thick with photos, reports, things he thought were damning, it wasn't evidence he cared about. It was victory. He wanted a confession. He wanted to shrink me back into the version of me that fit his universe. But the folder wasn't heavy enough to outweigh the resentment behind it. And he didn't know he was about to expose himself more than he ever exposed me. Part 3. The letter, the drive, the perimeter. This didn't start at Grandma's dinner table. The first domino fell with a pale blue envelope. Mom's handwriting across the front. It reached my secure office through multiple layers of screening. Even that told me everything. Mail doesn't arrive there by accident. Inside, her tone was sweet but sharp. "We miss you. Alex is doing wonderfully as chief. Grandma's health isn't what it used to be." And then the real message, tucked neatly beneath the gilt. "Christmas dinner at Grandma's. It's time you come home." Mom never writes "it's time," unless she's issuing an order dressed up as love. I reread the letter 3 times. Something felt wrong, but I was too drained to analyze it. I filed for 48 hours of leave. My commanding officer approved almost instantly, adding only one line. "Family matters. Stay sharp. Call if something comes up." I thought he was just being decent. Later I realized he was warning me. The drive back felt like rolling the tape of my life in reverse. City turning rural, lights becoming houses I once knew by heart, old gas stations still standing like ghosts. By the time I pulled up to Grandma's, my chest felt like it carried 100 pounds of unspoken history. She opened the door before I even knocked, hugged me tight, and in a voice only I could hear, she whispered, "I'm glad you came, but watch yourself. Your brother is up to something." I assumed she meant an argument. Old family wounds. Not this. Inside, everything was draped in familiar holiday warmth. Tree glowing, framed photos watching from the mantel, ham scent filling the air, pies cooling by the window. But beneath the nostalgia, a pressure hummed. Something taut. Something planned. Mom's smile looked like it was patched together just to keep from falling apart. She hovered around Alex as if he were royalty instead of my brother. At one point I felt his eyes on me, hard, hungry, assessing. Not a sibling seeing another sibling. A predator sizing up a threat. When the table got too loud, I muttered, "I need some air." Mom snapped instantly. "We're in the middle of dinner." I walked out anyway. Cold air slapped me with the kind of honesty my family avoided. Two uniformed officers stood stiffly near the oak tree, pretending to be casual while failing miserably. A dark sedan waited 2 houses down. Engine off, silhouettes inside. Not neighbors. Not carolers. A perimeter. Around my grandmother's house. On Christmas Eve. All because I came home. I went back inside and sat quietly, watching Alex try not to tremble. Not from fear, no. He was trembling from anticipation. When he tapped his glass the first time, I already knew the script he'd memorized. This wasn't family. This was a setup dressed in Christmas lights. He tapped again. 3 sharp rings. Silence fell over the room like snow. Alex stepped to the head of the table. Dad's seat. Standing tall with the posture of someone rehearsing victory in the mirror. He slowly lifted a folder and set it in front of him like he was presenting a case to a jury. "It's time everyone heard the truth," he said. Mom sucked in a breath. Grandma lowered her eyes. I didn't react. My heartbeat didn't even shift. He opened the folder with dramatic flair, then scattered surveillance photos across the table. Images of me entering my secured building, meeting a colleague in a park, receiving classified deliveries with red-labeled containers. "These shipments contain restricted equipment," he declared. "Things no real officer keeps at home." I just watched him unravel. "I checked his records too," Alex continued. "There is no Captain Caldwell. There is no intelligence assignment. His file is blank because it's fabricated." Mom whispered my name like a question. I didn't answer. She wasn't the one who earned the truth. "My brother has been impersonating a federal officer," Alex announced. "Stealing government property. Lying to all of us." The room inhaled sharply. My cousins leaned back like lies were contagious. Uncle Robert muttered something smug. And what hit hardest wasn't the accusation, it was how fast they believed him. No hesitation. No doubt. Speed kills trust quicker than betrayal. Alex circled behind me. His voice hardened into command mode. "Stand up." I didn't move. "Are you absolutely sure," I asked quietly, "that this falls under your jurisdiction?" His jaw tightened. "You don't get to lecture me on the law." He grabbed my arm and twisted it behind me. Cold metal bit into my wrist as the first cuff snapped shut at 6:47 p.m. He thought that sound was his victory. My fingers brushed the hidden seam in my belt. Pressed the tiny switch. 3 seconds. 1 vibration. A signal sent. A 12-minute response time. Sometimes faster. The second cuff locked at 6:48. He pulled me to my feet and marched me through the living room. My cousins looked away like I had a disease. Mom stared at me like she was watching a coffin lower into the ground. Not sadness for me, sadness for Alex. For her golden son. Grandma's hands were tight, her eyes fixed to the floor. She knew what came next. Alex shoved me toward the front door. Convinced the night belonged to him. But I knew the truth. The countdown had already begun. And when it hit 0, everything he thought he knew about me, about this moment, would blow wide open. He dragged me into the yard. Snow crunching under our feet, Christmas lights flickering above us. He pushed me toward the waiting cruiser where his deputies, kids barely out of academy training, stood stiffly at attention. "Get him in the car," he barked, proud of the show he'd built. He had no idea the show wasn't his. One deputy steadied my head as he guided me in, routine procedure, but his fingers trembled like he already regretted being part of this. The back seat of the cruiser felt like sitting on carved ice, the plastic stiff and unforgiving. My wrists pulsed inside the cuffs. 6:52 p.m. For minutes since I hit the emergency trigger. Alex appeared at the door of the cruiser, leaning in with the smug ease of a man who thinks he's won. "You'll think about this in a cell tonight," he said. I stared straight ahead, letting the cruiser window act like a mirror. His victory face, reflected and warped, was the only response he got. At exactly 7 p.m., a low rolling vibration filled the neighborhood, measured, heavy, unmistakably coordinated. Engines. Large ones. Moving fast. A pair of bright beams pierced the snow from opposite ends of the street. Unmarked black SUVs swept in, stopping with military precision, sealing the cruiser inside a perfect metal box. Alex stepped back, irritation cracking through his confidence. At 7:01, all SUV doors opened at once. No shouting, no theatrics. Agents in full tactical black flowed out, controlled and silent. "Identify yourselves," Alex barked, trying to reclaim the room. A man in a suit stepped forward, flipping his credentials open. "Special Agent Rollins, FBI. This matter is federal. Step away from the vehicle." Alex gave a short, incredulous laugh. "I just arrested a federal impersonator. This is my jurisdiction." Rollins didn't waste a blink. "No, Chief. You arrested a federal officer." The deputy beside him looked like the blood drained straight through the soles of his boots. "Key," Rollins said. The deputy handed it over without a word. By 7:02 p.m., the cruiser door swung open. The cuffs came off immediately. "Sir," Rollins said, steady and respectful. "Are you injured?" Before I could respond, the back door of the lead SUV opened. The entire street fell still. Major General Marcus Delaney stepped out in full dress uniform, metals catching the streetlights like cold fire. He walked directly toward me. The agent straightened, boots aligned, back stiff. Delaney stopped in front of me and delivered a flawless salute. "General Caldwell," he said. "Your signal was received." Behind him, Alex's expression shattered. That single word, "General," knocked the ground out from beneath him. He wasn't looking at a liar anymore. He was looking at a ranking officer he never knew his own brother was. Delaney lowered his salute and turned his voice to granite. "Chief Caldwell is to be detained. Multiple federal violations. Take him." Two agents grabbed Alex's arms. He didn't resist. He just whispered, "I didn't know." Delaney's eyes didn't soften. Ignorance is not a defense. As the agents led Alex away through the falling snow, he finally met my eyes. For the first time in our lives, he was afraid. Not of punishment, afraid of the truth. Afraid of what he had done to himself. And Christmas night still had more to say. The fallout didn't take months. Took days. Before sunrise, Alex was under federal supervision. Badge suspended. Access cut. Authority dissolved before the holiday decorations even wilted. Mom tried calling the next morning. Not to apologize, not to check on me, but to demand I fix everything, pull strings, salvage her favorite child's reputation. I let the phone ring. Some doors close themselves, and it's best to leave them that way. 3 weeks later, I delivered my deposition in a secure room. No emotion. No family history. Just a clean record of facts he had chosen to ignore. Alex tried to plead his way out, first claiming he'd been misled, then blaming his department, then trying to pin it on me. But pride bends, evidence doesn't. The courtroom cared nothing for sibling rivalry. He got 12 years. Minimum 5 inside. His career. Gone. His badge. Gone. His name? Now welded to the failure he'd spent a lifetime running from. Mom didn't go to the sentencing. Grandma did. She sat with her hands folded, calm, as though none of this surprised her. Afterward, she hugged me with a quiet strength. The kind that tells you the storm is finally over. That night, I drove back to DC. Snow drifted down in soft, slow waves. For the first time in decades, something lifted. The lifelong weight of trying to win the approval of a family who never really saw me for who I was. Freedom doesn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it's simply walking away without dragging their damage behind you anymore. That was the lesson Alex never understood.